Hey you guys, it's up for another video. Stranger. I just wanted to do another video today, and I just wanted to. I have a schedule and I'm trying to adhere to that schedule, so we're gonna adhere to it. Today's video is FIE. I figured guys can come next. I did 2 dudes from class 7, so I should do 2 chicks from class 7 as well. So last video I did Emma, give it a watch. And I figured that I'd do my next favorite girl character from the class, which is FIE. So next video should be guys. Anyway, I might have named this video In the Wake of a Soldier or something relating to her being a soldier or anything, but FIE's character was kind of, I guess, confusing for what her role in the story really is and how does she operate in terms of the story. What does she really do? And that's not a slight on her part. It's more of just she kind of not meanders, that's rude, but she kind of doesn't know. She's probably by far one of the most traveled people in the entire, well, not in the entirety, but out of the entirety of class 7 as a whole. She's definitely one of the most traveled people, but she doesn't necessarily know the ins and outs, and the reason is because of that. Well, she was a jaeger, so she's traveled to different places and different areas, way more so than probably anybody else in the entirety of class 7. But she didn't stop to get a political lesson, she didn't stop to get a historical lesson, she's just traveled, and it shows. She's very she's introspective. Meanwhile, the other members of class 7, they know the political stuff. So during the first game, FIE and Gaius kind of serve as our surrogate, audience surrogate. Usually it will be one of them. You'll never see both of them, unless I could be wrong on this, but I believe I'm right. You'll never see both of them on the same trip, or the same study, because that would completely go against the story, in the sense that they're completely fine, but one of them has to serve as the audience surrogate, because the characters already know some of the information one of the FIE or Gaius wouldn't know. So they're supposed to serve as us. So when they're being explained to, and the story is explaining the stuff to FIE or Gaius, well, they're also explaining it to us. So you'll never see FIE and Gaius probably interact that much, because they're there just to serve to be taught when we're supposed to be taught. But that was her probably purpose for the first good couple of chapters. Eventually we learn, well, I mean, first couple, I think it's chapter 2, we learn that she was a jaeger. Now, if you're starting with Cold Steel, that means absolutely nothing to you. Zero. It meant absolutely nothing to me. I didn't know what a jaeger was. I thought she was some type of spy or something, but it's pretty much just explained that she was a soldier. She was a child soldier. So you get the terms. Okay, being a child soldier is pretty messed up, but you don't really fully grasp the lifestyle and what jaegers do. Eventually you're taught and you're told that all jaegers are, for the most part, are mercenaries. Their loyalty lies in whoever has the most money to pay them at that current time. Now, it's a little bit more complicated with that from what we see. Like, we never see a jaeger stop mid-mission if you offer to pay them more. That's something they never do, really. They kind of just, they go through with the full mission. They don't really stop in the middle. And we see that with all of these other, past characters. And how she was found was she was, I guess we should mention those past characters. She was found by the leader of Zephyr, Rutger. Let me make sure that's right. I believe it's Rutger. But she was found by Rutger, Leo, and Zeno. Now, I think if we're going to be talking about any of those characters, I think Rutger is probably the best one. I am correct, it is Rutger, thank God I didn't mess that up. But I think Rutger by far is probably the best one to talk about. And you can't really, and maybe I'll do a video on him separately, but the cool fact that we see for Rutger is he knew Sarah before she was even really Purple Lightning or anything, or any abrasive like that. He knew Sarah when she was still a Jaeger, and Rutger served in the same corps as Sarah, under Sarah's dad. So Sarah is kind of what we see, and we kind of get this point that Sarah's kind of FIE, and serves as FIE's mentor. And we see that Sarah even has a special place for FIE in her heart. If there is pretty much who we see as, oh, this is Sarah, what she would have been like as a kid, it would have been FIE. And it's very interesting to see that as her character grows and develops, how much he takes after Sarah, even going as far as being a bracer. I love seeing that. I did not think, we knew that at the start, like, oh, FIE and Sarah have some type of relation because they know each other, but we didn't ever know that they were, or I didn't know and didn't think that FIE was going to become a bracer. But it makes so much sense at the end of the day that Zephyr's gone. It was the Red Constellation and Zephyr that fought, and I believe Rutger fought the leader of the Red Constellation for I think 3 days, and then both of them died, and that kind of left everybody, you know, tits up. The only really surviving members that we see prevalent, at least wise, of Zephyr are Leo, Zeno, and then if you played Dawn, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna spoil anything. I'm not gonna spoil anything. But for the most part, until Reverie, we see Leo and Zeno are still alive, and there's still a couple members elsewhere alive as well, here and there. We see on the Red Constellation side, we only see Shirley. At least as far as I'm concerned, from Claussell 1 all the way to Reverie, we only see Shirley is this surviving member. Technically, I think, could you even count Randy? I don't know if you could count Randy, but maybe. So Shirley and Randy pretty much are two, but I'll count Shirley. Shirley is one of the surviving members of the Red Constellations. So we see that Jaeger groups, even at the start of the story, aren't really meant to be, yeah, they're families, but at the end of the day, death is commonplace to them. And that was the type of environment FIE was constantly and consistently raised in. So she's no stranger to that. It's very nice to see that with FIE, because probably out of everybody in Class 7, she takes the longest to form a connection to. Her and Laura are fighting for like 2 or 3 chapters, which I think probably means like 3 months. And FIE doesn't really try to solve the situation. She doesn't go up to Laura and try to like, hey, you know, what's the problem or anything. She could care less. She doesn't really, it takes her a bit to form connections, and I love that in the story. The story is writing her as if she doesn't want to form those connections because of what could happen and how she's been raised, and they take into account that she was a Jaeger. They don't make her all plucky and happy and everything. They could do that. That is a form that they could have gone, but they choose to go a little bit more realistic with FIE, and I very much so appreciate that within the story. We see her even from, it's funny too, because you see when Leo and Zeno kind of come back and talk to FIE, she kind of turns into a little girl again. It's really cool to see that is their equivalent to, that's their little sister. That's like, they're going to be protective of them. Now they do fight and everything, but it's weird because we get the impression that, at least I always have the impression that they're not going 100% at FIE, at Rien, or any of Class 7. They're going enough to where they're trying, but they're not trying to outright kill any of Class 7. They're still holding back a little bit. At least that's the impression that I got from them. So knowing that, sorry, I was just thinking, but knowing that and seeing that them going and them kind of being able to hold back, they have some type of form of humanity to them, and the story does portray the Jaegers like that. They don't portray the Jaegers as if they're completely just null and void of emotion or anything, but no, Leo, Zeno, Rutger, they all have humanity within them. They're all going to, of course, be able to focus down and get the job done, but it's not like they're without emotions. It's just that's how she copes with it. Another character, we see Zeno, he copes with it probably very massively different. We see, every time we see Zeno, he has a smile on his face, but FIE, on the meanwhile, she doesn't. Her initial appearance, her first appearance that we see her in, she is very, very focused on trying to not really get to know anybody. She's freaking she passes everybody by far, In the labyrinth, when we first see her, she passes up everybody. Even so much so she's able to go back, check on Rena and everybody else to make sure, you know, hey, you guys aren't dead or anything. Oh, you guys are this far, good job. But in terms of skill, only really Laura is matching her. And say what you want about FIE, but in my personal opinion, it was like, oh, Laura would have beat FIE. I don't know, because FIE's saying, oh, if we were fighting in the daytime, you would have beat me. Yeah, but I mean, also she's a jaeger. I don't think she's used to fighting people one-on-one, or also like just like straight combat. I would assume that she also pretty much sneaks up on people as well. So like that's not her expertise. She's not really meant to be doing one-on-one heavy combat with people. And I do like that with the Jaegers as well. They're not necessarily like martial art masters or anything crazy like that. These are soldiers, so they're using weapons such as guns and lancers and or energy rifles, stuff like that, where it's like actual weapons of war. We don't, at least to my knowledge, I don't think we see a Jaeger really walk around with just a sword. We don't see a Jaeger. They don't do that. They're not. They're using weapons of war. And as much as like I love the divine blades and everything, the Jaegers always serve as a constant reminder that yeah, not everybody's a sword master, not everybody is a Taito master or anything like that, or great with arts. Like some people, for the most part, have to just use those guns. Some people, for the most part, like FIE, for the most part, just uses dual pistols. And now they have the little blades on them that's really cool and fits with the character design, as well as just even her name, Sylphid. But for the most part, no, it's everybody is using weapons of war as a Jaeger. These are meant to kill. You know, it's hard to kind of disable somebody with a gun. Everybody else they pretty much like, you know, you have a gun that's meant to kill. You can disable somebody with a sword. You can disable somebody with orbital arts. With a gun though, that's meant to take you out. I guess if we're gonna be talking more about I guess her as a soldier, and I guess how much that affects her character, is pretty much the moments in her character where it affects her, of course. And I think one of the moments that probably affects her the most is Rutger coming back, and I don't know if it's Rutger or Rutger, so correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Rutger, but I'm gonna keep saying Rutger, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But Rutger coming back is probably one of the most, like, I guess, emotional we see FIE. We see her tear up throughout the series, I think, up until 3. I think, yeah, Rutger comes back at 3, but and we see her emotional because she gets to meet Reen again at the end, or at the start of 1. Pretty much the start. I'll say, like, yeah, pretty much the start. But she gets emotional, mainly because FIE, we don't know even what country FIE is from. We don't know anything about her parents or anything like that. Rutger picked her up when she was, it seems like when she was about 4 to 6, anywhere around there, because FIE just doesn't know her parents at all, or wasn't taught or raised or anything like that. It seems like Rutger picked her up when she was around a toddler. So all she knows is this war life, and she sees her dad come back, and she kind of gets this semblance of family again. Now she does have this conflict where she has to fight her family, and she takes to it amazingly well. She takes to it great, and that's what I like. We see of course she has inner conflict about it, but the story, I always talk about in these videos how there's some characters where the story progresses through them, and there's some characters where they help the story progress. And FIE is one of those characters where the story progresses through them. And she takes to the whole fighting her family thing amazingly well, and of course she would. She's a Jaeger. That is the whole point. They even say that Jaegers at one point they're fighting each other, and the other point they're literally trying to kill each other, and the other point they might be best friends trying to help each other, might be allies on the field. So with that in mind, and that being one of the mantras of being a Jaeger, her having to fight her family and her having to potentially have to put down her family, that makes sense that she's able to take to it, and she doesn't go back on herself of being a Jaeger. She still views herself in some way or form as being a Jaeger, at true to her heart. The only other character we really see that is kind of like that, and it doesn't really mind if people flip on her and is willing to fight them at a moment's notice, is Sarah, Purple Lightning. We see her do that, and that also makes sense because she's also a Jaeger. She never flips out when Sharon goes back with Ouroboros for a little bit. Sarah doesn't flip out like, oh, okay, I'll fight you too. Like, she kind of was waiting for it, and they had been in the same dorm and everything had been chill for a little bit. You would think they would have built some type of relationship, but for the most part, no, she's with the smoke again. That to me has always been great. I've always liked those type of interactions. Now, I think another pivotal moment probably is learning about probably all the bad things Jaegers do. From her point of view, FIE knows Jaegers aren't like the best of people. They're not the greatest of people. They're still soldiers, so they commit atrocities. But every time we hear about a Jaeger committing an atrocity or two, or 3 or 4, she kind of comes at it with this perspective that, like, you know, hey, you can blame the Jaegers, of course, but for the most part, where there's a job that needs to be done and there's a job that pays, somebody will do it. And so we really don't see her hating her upbringing or anything where she came from, and I love that. We don't see her going through and being like, well, Leo and Zeno did this, or the Northern Jaegers did this, or Red Constellations did that. We don't see her doing that, and that to me is so refreshing. Usually you'll see in some media where they'll see, you know, hey, my group of people committed some atrocities, therefore I hate my group of people. But it's not so black and white like that. Just because, you know, not necessarily your people, but that group of people that you hung out with, or that group of people that was around you committed some type of bad, terrible deed, doesn't mean you need to hate yourself for what they did. That is probably one of the greatest things FIE has probably, and the subtle parts of writing that Trails has imparted on FIE, and I love that about her character. Specifically, although it does take her some time interacting with the characters and getting to know everybody, especially in Class 7, it is pretty awesome to see that she's probably at points the comedic relief, and just the comedic relief. There's no better way in my personal opinion that can describe it. She is not necessarily the little sister or anything, and they would also, in common writing, they would make FIE the little sister in the class, but no, she's on equal ilk with everybody, the same. People view her as just another member, as just another person. And I guess with her interactions, we can go with Laura. I said previously that Machias and Eustace were having at one point, and still do kind of have this whole, you know, noble commoner beef type thing, right? That's the dynamic between their characters. One is the most common commoner, right? Even though Machias isn't, but he was raised in a part of town and in the place of town where he really relates, and he views himself, truth be told, as a commoner at heart and takes pride in that. And then Eustace takes pride in himself being a noble. And we see those two character traits of theirs clash. We see the same thing with Laura and FIE. Now, for the most part, FIE doesn't really care about Laura at that point in the story. She doesn't really care that Laura's a noble. She give 2 shits about that. She doesn't care about that. But we do see Laura, she does care that FIE is a Jaeger. She does care about that. Even though she wasn't there to hear FIE say that personally, she does still, it still irks her. And I do like that she says, you know, it's somewhere in the core, I try not to care, I really don't, but somewhere in my core, it does affect me, it does hurt, because FIE is so skillful, and there's no honor on her blade. And FIE, you know, responds back that, hey, there is honor, it's just a different type. they take pride in the whole, you know, hey, we'll pay for the highest bidder. They take pride in that because, again, where there's a job that needs to be done, somebody will do it. And the fact that FIE is so able to tell Laura that, and it's so like, hey, no, I take pride in that, and that's fine. If you don't like that, then cool. But what I do at the end of the day isn't gonna affect you is ballsy. Now, of course, they come to an understanding that Laura's worldview needs to be expanded, and FIE needs to be accepting of other people and willing to reach out and willing to understand and get a different point of view. Because at the end of the day, it's you can walk around saying, I don't care about anything, this sucks, you suck, whatever, your opinions don't matter, but somebody's opinion eventually is going to matter to you. And knowing when to kind of draw that line for yourself is very important. And for FIE, it was, oh, Laura's opinion kind of does matter. I'm going to be sticking with her for God knows 2 years. I might as well, yeah, what she thinks is kind of important, especially when she's supposed to have my back. I'm supposed to have hers. This is class 7. We're supposed to be out here fighting people and fighting monsters and shit. Her opinion's going to matter. And how you guys link up, that's going to matter. So in the most storytelling way possible, with the whole Arcus links and everybody, and being able to link with your teammates and everything, and why that boosts their power tremendously, yeah, her opinion matters. You're going to need to at least come to terms, and you guys are both going to need to come to terms with each other. And of course, now after that, they kind of become, you know, the bestest of friends for a little bit. And that's not really expanded too much on later on in the games. I wish it was, but eventually, you know, FIE becomes kind of this is spoilers for Dawn, by the way. FIE kind of just becomes, or not just becomes, she becomes a bracer. And this isn't, no, it's not even spoilers. Yeah, she just, I think they said that in 3 and 4 that she becomes a bracer. And she starts to eventually take after Sarah, and she becomes the youngest A rank bracer that there is. So she becomes probably a bracer at around an A rank at 19. I loved it. I love that. Again, I said it at the beginning of the video, I'll say it again now, and I'll say it again at the end. FIE becoming a bracer makes so much sense. She doesn't need to wander or anything. She doesn't need to go through that stage, nor does she need to be a teacher, nor does she need to do anything like that, because her being a bracer ties down exactly what she wants in that Jaeger lifestyle without her having to do any of the Jaeger things. She doesn't have to worry about her killing any of her friends or anything like that, and she's able to help people, but she's still able to kind of do her wandering around a little. Wandering is in terms of like traveling around, being able to see new things, see new sights, and fight for the people that she cares about. And she finally has a family in class 7. That I love about her character, and I feel like honestly the devs also like that about her character. FIE's overall like impact on the plot, it means a lot, especially in Claussell 3, because she has a connection to one of the pilots of the mechs, the Divine Knights, sorry. So her impact on the plot means a lot. Even if Rutger, let's say, somehow won, which he could have, I think it definitely is possible. Even if Rutger were to win and were to do any of the few things he would have done, or the many things he could have done, I don't think he would have done anything bad, because that would have affected FIE, and he cares for FIE. He cares for Leo. He cares for Zeno. We don't really see him go through, and usually Rutger would be written as this type of dude who cares only, you know, only the strongest survive, or, you know, that type of whole thing where he would be, oh, if you can't live through this attack, then you deserve to die, right? But we don't see him necessarily written like that. In FIE's eyes, I can understand how she views him and sees him as that father figure for her. I can see how she views him as that. It's not something where it's like, oh, how can you even view, where it's like, how do you view him as a father? No, it makes sense. That's a really important thing, I think, in writing. And as far as when I see it, I'm not a writing major or anything like that, right? But when I'm reading a story and somebody's dad is very, very overbearing on them, or very, you know, unrealistically, you know, just harsh, right? And offers zero, like, I know some fathers are like that, but for the most part, it's important. The whole carrot and the stick or reward part is important. And we see that with the character of Rutger. We see that he did, hey, you know, Fee, here's a reward, or hey, Fee, here's, you know, some of my time. And he truly does care. We see that the caring part of him is there. A show that I really like, and most people really like, Avatar. We see Zuko and Azula. Their dad, Ozai, he doesn't care for either one of them. Now, they deal with that in two different ways, but for the most part, it's he doesn't care for either one. But and eventually that kind of comes back to bite him. Not even eventually, it does. It comes back to bite him, because a broken unit can't do anything. A broken unit, yeah, you can get far if you have just pure heavy hitters, but if you're planning on world conquest, or if you're planning on anything, on reaching a certain type of goal, heck, you might even reach that goal, but you can't maintain it with a broken unit. You cannot do that. With Rutger, we see that he is called the Jaeger King. He has his unit tied together, so of course it would make sense that he's a very, very good dad to Fee. That makes the most sense. How would you be called the Jaeger King yet you can't even, like, unite people? You can't be called the Jaeger King and not be a good dad. If you're just an enforcer, you just don't care about people, you would have a very, very different name. But the fact that you're able to bring forces together and bring so much men, women, and soldiers together and act as a combined, unified effort, you'd also have to be kind of a good dad after a certain point, because you know how that operates. Anyway, yeah, sorry about the whole dad thing, but yeah, Rutger is a great dad for Fee, and he is such an important part of her character because he is what defines most of her character. In the same way Rufus defines Eustace, Vita defines Emma. In the same way, and I don't necessarily know if define is the right word, but definitely, or foil is the right word, or helps out their character. But in the same way that it would be, you know, Vita is the older sibling. I think, though, Vita's the older sibling, Emma, Rufus is the older sibling to Eustace. It helps tremendously that for them, for Fee, that her dad really helps out. A lot of the characters, it's very rare to see a character kind of have two parents. And what is it in Cold Steel? Reen, well, we know both of his parents, both, you know, whether it's Kasha and the Chancellor, you know, Osborne, or it's the Baron and the Baroness. Reen has both of his parents for the most part. His adoptive parents that really super matter to them and raised him. But other than that, I think everybody pretty much only has one parent. Reen is the only one with both of his adoptive parents. I'm trying to think. Elliot, yeah, Elliot only had, no, Gaius. There's another one. Okay. Gaius is goated for that. And that's great. That's awesome. I love how Gaius is goated for that. Yeah, Gaius, he's great for that. Gaius is both of his parents. And that is completely within his control. Everybody else, how dare they lose both of their parents? Jeez. But yeah, it's I do like that everybody else pretty much only has one of their parents. I would like to mention, other than, I think for the most part it's understandable, Fee's character is understandable. And I think I do like Fee in the sense that or not do like Fee, but I do think Fee is important for the story, and gives the perspective on the story that, and of course it's awesome that the littlest, the smallest person on the team, the youngest person on the team, what do they have to offer and what do they have to benefit? She's by far probably the most experienced in combat and is the most traveled, and we love seeing that. or not even we, but I'm pretty sure FIE is a fan favorite for that very reason, in the sense that she is the most experienced, and she isn't to what everybody meets the eye. She is the soldier of the team by far. She would know the most about keeping people in check and knowing how to run a unit. I love that about her character, and I feel like you couldn't really write. They couldn't do anything wrong at that point, or at this point with FIE. You know, writer, Falcom's doing an amazing job. I think I searched up, it's only 60 people that work at Falcom, right? They're doing a great job. Whoever's writing for FIE, and everybody's got their, it seems like in Trails too, I will acknowledge, everybody seems like they got, it seems like all the devs and all the people have specific favorite characters that they love to give their own time to shine. And that kind of in turn doesn't really have, of course, Alyssa seems to be like the most, like she is the girl for Reen, right? Because she's shown by far as the most forefront. But when you play the games, and if you don't put that much focus on Alyssa, you put her like as much focus, it's kind of even all over the board. You know, when you're playing, like, for instance, Xenoblade 2. I don't like Xenoblade 2. Controversial opinion, but I guess for some reason I don't like Xenoblade 2. When you're playing through Xenoblade 2, Pyra and Mithra are by far the girl for Rex. No matter how much you don't focus on them, the story is going to call for them to be that. Especially not even Mithra, Pyra. It's going to call for them to be that. You can give a flying whatever. Nia doesn't matter, right? Fiora is the girl for Shulk. It doesn't matter who else is there, and Mia is the girl for Noah. There's no other if, ands, or buts, right? And that's cool. That's fine. But I like the way Trails does it. Trails, if you play through FIE's side stories, you get her maxed out and everything, you kind of see that at the end of the day, she is a girl, but it's kind of weird. It's kind of like she's a soldier trying to be a girl, trying to learn that she can be, you know, a teenager, trying to learn that she could be a young adult. She doesn't have to go through that soldier lifestyle anymore, but it's important that she takes everything she's learned and she can apply it to what she's currently doing, and she's doing an amazing job with that. They're doing an amazing job writing her, and yeah. Anyway, I think that's the video. This was on how FIE, in the wake of a soldier, right? How she is a great character, and I hope they keep on writing her as such. But anyway, that's the video. You guys be sure to keep living, keep doing what you're doing as long as it's good, you know, all the basic stuff that I say at the end of these videos. And yeah, you guys have a good one.